What if I told you that each and every one of you holds the secret ingredient to your health that's just as important as your doctor's medical expertise and training? Once upon a time, there was a 13-year-old girl whose mother had overcome breast cancer and was in remission. She was feeling a bit off and called her doctor several times before a summer vacation with her children. But her complaints were dismissed. Upon returning from the trip, it turned out she was right, and something was wrong. 45 days after now being diagnosed with lung cancer, she died at the age of 42, leaving behind her 4 children. Once upon a time, there was a 21-year-old young lady whose father had both cancer and diabetes. After having a heart attack, he was discharged with an extensive list of medications and follow-up procedures. Many times he tried to call his doctors for help, to help him make sense of it all. But the help did not come in time. He ended up having a drug reaction. Transfixed in a coma, he died 2 weeks later at the age of 51. Once upon a time, there was a 29-year-old whose husband was extremely weak. The doctors found he had a low blood count and diagnosed it with a bout of anemia he should not be too concerned with. Every day he seemed to get weaker, and his heart felt as if it were about to explode. He pleaded with his doctors to fix it. Something wasn't right, but his complaints were dismissed. A few days later, he was rushed to the emergency room, and they were shocked to find he had a bleeding stomach tumor the size of a golf ball. If he had waited any longer writing out his bout of anemia, he most likely would have died. And that 13-year-old who lost her mother as a result of issues in the healthcare system grew up to be that 21-year-old who lost her father. And that 21 grew up to be that 29-year-old who almost lost her husband. And I'm sure you've guessed that that 29-year-old grew up to be me. The voices of my mother, my father, my husband, they weren't heard at the time, but I'm here to tell their story. I am tired of the issues in the healthcare system, snatching my family members well before their time. They say it gets easier over the years, and they are wrong. My sleepless nights of what-ifs fuel my passion to make a difference in the lives of others as a patient advocate, where I help patients and caregivers navigate their health. I am angry, I am sad, I am perplexed, but I am hopeful that as we start to amplify the voice of the patient, what happened to me and my family will never affect yours. The patient's life expertise is just as important as the doctor's medical expertise. And only when the two come together and engage in an embrace, in what I refer to as the patient-doctor tango, can it truly lead to a powerful connection and ultimately a flawless performance. Now, it's neither the steps nor the rhythm that define the tango, but rather the unique connection that the two partners create together. And I use the tango as an analogy because the key elements of this dance are the foundation to the ideal patient-doctor relationship: balanced partnership, respect, connection, continuous give and take, improvisation where no dance is the same, intuitive decision-making to navigate the encounter. Now, in the ideal patient-doctor relationship, the patient expertise is embraced in partnership with the doctor's medical expertise, which is the essence of participatory medicine, where both doctor and patient are equal partners. The sad reality is that we're far from mastering the art and science of the patient-doctor tango. The patient story, the patient voice, our oldest diagnostic tool, is often overlooked in healthcare. I'd like to share a few facts with you from recent studies that put a spotlight on reality. Fact: 75% of patients were interrupted by their doctors as they were describing their symptoms. Fact: doctors listened for an average of 16 seconds before interrupting their patients. Fact: once interrupted, only 2% of patients completed their story. Fact: 50% of doctors graduate in the bottom half of their class. One person got that. Okay. Opinion: if doctors use their ears as often as they used a CT scan or an MRI, it would be half the battle. Now, in all fairness to doctors, the majority of healthcare systems have not been designed to embrace the voice of the patient, although there are pockets where this is happening and this value is being recognized. In a sense, it's a new way of practicing medicine, so we have some work to do. Now, the Argentine Tango is a style that relies on improvisation. The traditional paternalistic approach, where man leads and woman follows, vanishes, where either can now lead and follow in a give-and-take relationship. The right partner can truly lead to a masterpiece of a performance. Now, in healthcare, forging a strong partnership with your doctor is one of the most important steps you can take in protecting your health. But the majority of us will undergo major medical procedures without doing our homework, without seeking the expert opinions of other doctors, without touching base with other patients. I want you to think for a minute, how did I choose my doctor? Was it the recommendation of a friend because the doctor was nice and didn't nag them about certain lifestyle choices? Was it the first doctor you could find in an alphabetical list you could get an appointment with? First female you could find? Did you do any additional research on your doctor? When you're renovating a room in your house, do you hire the first contractor that you were recommended, or do you do a bit of homework to ensure you're making the best choice? Why aren't we placing the same value in our bodies and our health when we're putting our lives in the hands of a doctor's? Now, if you have a doctor you've been seeing, how would you describe your relationship? Is your doctor a good listener? Do they help you piece together and tell your story? Would you share secrets with your doctor that might be impacting your health? How many of you have asked Dr. Google a question you would never ask your actual doctor? Better yet, how many of you have lied to your doctor or concealed certain details? Unfortunately, many of us will lie to our doctors in fear of judgment and embarrassment. Now, I hate to admit this on stage, but I've even lied to my doctor. I was once asked if I had ever been exposed to secondhand smoke. And images of the 2 packs a day my dad used to smoke with me in the car, in the back seat, flashed before my eyes. But I adamantly replied, no, never. Why? It was a split-second reaction, and I was actually surprised, given what I do, that I lied. But because I have a crazy family history and try to pretend to be invincible and lead a healthy lifestyle, I didn't want something that I thought was so trivial to be a documented strike against me. I didn't feel comfortable enough with my doctor to share that important information. So what happens when we lie? Concealing truth, concealing the story, can actually work against us. It can lead to the wrong diagnosis, a misdiagnosis, and even the wrong treatment. Choosing the right doctor is one of the most important medical decisions you will make, and finding a lifelong health partner you trust and respect and can build a relationship with over time is fundamental. And if you aren't connecting with your current doctor, then it's time to find a new one. Partner connection is the heart of the tango, where information flows back and forth. Medicine is a sensual science, where it's important that we gather data about the patient through touch and other senses. Ironically, the Latin derivative of tango is tangere, which means to touch. Mastering the art and science of the patient-doctor tango requires us to combine the patient's story, the physical exam of the body, the doctor's medical expertise, and the tests and diagnostics performed in a unifying diagnosis. And once that diagnosis is made, it's important that we translate that back into the language and the context of that patient's life so that they understand their condition and can make the most appropriate treatment decision based on that understanding. Many patients are forced to learn a new language when they enter the healthcare system for the first time, but it's important we provide subtitles to that foreign flick. Connection is the conversation between the patient's story and the language of medicine. The patient-doctor relationship is the cornerstone of health and healing, and you control a very important piece to that puzzle. Your life story is critical. Now, I can't rewrite history and change my past, or the countless lives of the mothers, fathers, siblings, spouses whose voices weren't heard, but I can write a new chapter, and it goes something like this. Once upon a time, we each learned how to tango with our doctors, and we lived happily ever after.